Nights at 8 and Saturday at noon, as he has you covered with CHL, CJHL, USHL, NAHL, NCAA, and U Sports, plus the World Juniors, Frozen Four, and NHL Draft on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Two guys and a goalie.
I think we're going to see some big things from Evander Kane this year.
You think so? Like if he stays healthy, like 40 goals or something?
He's used to Edmonton now. He's solidified, I think, his place in the dressing room. I think there's a comfort factor that takes a little bit of time.
Two guys and a goalie with Gager, Cassian, and Nielsen. Tuesday and Thursdays at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Catch up with friends of EST, Andrew, Mike, and Kayla as they get you in the huddle with the Edmonton Elks on the Turf District. Thursday nights at 8, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join Murray McCourt and Curtis Stock for tips and tales from courses around Edmonton and area with the VIP Golf Show, presented by the Tailor Made Performance Center at the Ranch, Sundays at 8:30, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Oil Stream.
Last summer on the Oil Stream, you and I discussed the possibility of Gagner coming back here on a PTO. He signed with Winnipeg and got an actual contract.
Anytime you can have Sam Gagner involved in your organization in any way, it's a major positive for you.
They love him.
The Oil Stream with Nielsen and Gazzola. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk.
EST Hangout. Matawanek with you here, and Tom Gazzola, as we have been since the start of the EST. And joining us today, we got Jeff Krushell from Krush Performance making his debut on the EST Hangout. And we've got Quinn Phillips from Explore Edmonton with your second appearance.
Return
and you didn't
customer.
Speak to start.
I stopped talking at 45 seconds.
You're doing the rest of the intros today.
Yeah, and I'll get the intro right this time because I also screwed it up the last time. I was like, EST, the Hangout. I sounded like a total rookie. I blew it last time, too.
I didn't say anything. It's all good. She'll be all right.
It's just shaking off the rust.
Yeah,
you're back. Been a broadcaster in a while. You're right.
How long?
Being a broadcaster never leaves you.
Because I went back and forth too. So I actually left the industry, came back, and then left again. And this one has been just over, about 2.5 years.
Oh, jeez. It's been
Time
long.
flies, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how long I've been at Explore Edmonton. So that's how long I've been torturing the people of Explore Edmonton.
Crusher, welcome.
Good
How
to
are
see you guys. Yeah, great to be here, man. Seeing how the magic actually really happens. I'm loving it.
It's pure glamour.
It is.
Like it's pure glamour. There's a studio audience back there. There's PAs running around getting us things. It's pure glamour.
Yeah, no brown M&Ms in the green room.
That's
like,
We should have a green room.
I love it.
David Lee Roth is our spirit animal.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad to be here, guys, and I'm actually so happy for you guys. You know, with all the topsy-turvy things that are going on in the industry, of course, with the radio side, you guys took the bull by the horns, and this is awesome. I've been watching since day one.
Oh, TV's not free of it either, but
right.
All of media. Yeah. I have to say, it's wild sitting next to you because I've always listened to you, but I've never met you. I've never seen you. So then just hearing the voice, but then sitting next to you, it's kind of fun.
Okay.
The Hangout brings new friends
People
together.
We're going to be the best of friends.
The thing about Crusher, I don't think I've ever seen you not really happy and in a great mood. I don't think we've seen you at the radio station do morning shows. You've been as early as like 5 a.m. and people have seen you on the night show as late as midnight. And you're always just the same happy, so lucky dude.
Yeah.
And with this positive energy, it's something else.
What do you use? I want some of that.
No, man. I love this stuff though. Like, you know, I don't know how it all just happened, but I love this stuff. So I'm glad to be here, man. It just the way they roll. Just a good way to roll.
It fills your cup.
Yeah.
That's your new best friend, Crush.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah.
Sorry, you weren't at Whale and the Wolf on Friday, but you two were. What'd you guys make of the show?
Go ahead, Crush.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's the first time I've seen them live.
Yeah.
And I've been a fan since day one. But here's the thing about those guys, right? Knowing them personally is pretty special. And seeing them, I think, pretty much from the onset come together and build and grow and mature. It has been a really cool experience for me, man. When we look at like talent and talent ID, a lot of the research that's been done in trying to figure out how people become experts at what they do, a lot of the research looks at music and musicians. And one of the things that's always fascinated me, and I'm a huge music fan, and one thing that always blows me away is the new music. And when these guys start dropping their new music, when Midnight Oil came out, and then Veins comes out, and then Closer, and they're going, how are they creating this great new music? We actually had them in studio. We had Brandon and Ryan in studio, went back in the TSN days, and we were talking about the creativity, but also bands are a lot like teams, right?
Very much
The
so.
way they
Yeah.
work together, like us sitting here feeding off each other, and it was really cool to talk to those guys about how they're coming together as a unit and expanding the band a bit. To see them live and performing though, holy cow, it was a real treat. Those guys are going somewhere special. That's my opinion.
I love it. I was just happy to be back at Starlight Room.
It's such a great venue.
Right? Like, it is,
Love it there.
you love it there, right? Of
Yeah.
course.
That's
That's
my best. I know it was your first time. I was telling Nirvana played there in like 91 or something like
Yeah.
that. It's the only place
What
Nirvana
I would
played
do.
in Edmonton.
Yeah.
It was the Starlight. And it's just there's so many different studio or like areas that you can play
Little
shows
spots,
in.
yeah.
Like we've lost a lot of local music venues over the years.
Wow.
I'm so glad Starlight Room keeps it going and is still bringing in acts, and we didn't lose the Starlight Room.
They did have a very hard time. I do know that, and we are very, very lucky that they came out of it. Because I mean, obviously, working in tourism and
Yeah.
knowing these local businesses, they really struggled, and there was not near enough supports for businesses like that. And I am very thankful. We had a Juno show there that was just spectacular, and I've seen some great bands there in my time. So I love that space so much.
It is a great space. The last band I saw there, I think was Mounties, like 6 or 7 years, like a while ago. COVID messed up a lot of things, but they played great. Whale and the Wolf did on Friday night. The new album, fantastic. And I sat there crushed. After I was like, hey, it's just good to be back here. I'm sitting there watching Rymai and Lucas and Brandon and the boys do their thing. And especially Rymai, because him and I went to college together and his wife Haley. And I remember him day one. I kind of told this story a little bit on Thursday when Luke came in, but first day of radio and television, Ryan was sitting behind me, and I had not been to school in like 4 years. I finished high school. I went and worked at Costco in the tire shop for a bunch of years. I played junior B hockey. I was just a young idiot for 4 years. And then my parents like, hey, you got to do something with your life. So I finally got to Nate, took radio TV, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a good student because I was never a good student. And Ryan, like every 2 minutes, hey, what about this? Hey, dude. And I'm like, I'm trying to listen. And this 18-year-old kid keeps bugging me. My first day of post-secondary, he's, hey, wait, what about this? And he's telling jokes. And like, eventually they're starting to land. Like, he's sticking these jokes. And I'm like, this guy's pretty funny. But he's really annoying. I'm like, I don't know if I could do 2 years with this kid. And about a week later, I'm like, this is one of my new best friends. And
I love it.
and I'm glad to this day we're friends. We don't get to see each other as much. He's got a young family now, obviously. But I was watching from the back by the sound booth, and I think I just had a big smile on my face going like, he's my brother.
Oh, sing it, man.
Yeah. That's how I felt. I was just so proud of him and the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
And the fact that their music is pretty kick-ass is just the icing on top. But yeah, it was so good on Friday night.
Oh, they're pros, man. They're pros. I was sitting there just like you. I was just sitting there. I smiled the whole time,
Yeah.
just taking in the show. And it was great, man. And it kind of made me think, when you told me that night, Matt, that Nirvana had been there way back in the day, obviously before they had approached their stardom. It kind of, and again, this is my baseball background coming. It kind of like was at one of those serious minor league ballparks, right? Where all these superstars have eventually come through on their way to the top. That's kind of maybe what the Starlight Room is about. Again, my first time in the Starlight Room. What a cool scene. But what a great launching pad for young talent, hey?
Yeah. You need those kind of venues. You need the smaller, intimate, reputable venues that help bands get going. And then there's actually been a lot of like established performers that have played there and still play there.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
cool.
If you actually go to the back of the room, sometimes you don't venture around because like you just stay up at the front where
Yeah.
the stage is. But if you actually go to the back, there is a whole ton of posters of all the different bands that have played there, and it's a real history lesson. So I highly recommend the next time you're at the Starlight Room, go to the back bar and then in the very back corner. I've only just recently gone back there and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Definitely should have been checking this out before. And what I love so much about the Starlight Room too is that alleyway to get in. Like it's
Yeah.
just so like
He didn't
That
know
was
where to go.
underground.
That wasn't
Like
the
I
entrance
love
for
it.
us.
Oh, that's right.
That was the thing. Like,
Yes.
there's the main entrance and then there's the alleyway. And I was gonna go through like the main entrance that takes you first downstairs.
Yeah.
And it's I was like, no, we got to go to the alleyway. So we went to the alleyway, went up. That wasn't the entrance.
No, they
I
told
don't
us
know.
to go
We
to
had to
the
go.
main
I don't know
one.
what that one was for. There must have been a show in the back, and then we had to go back
it-
to the front. And it
The
was pretty
back room
busy at
was
Starlight
closed.
on Friday.
Yeah, the back room was closed on Friday night.
Oh,
Or if it
maybe.
was open, it
Okay.
was
It
something
was no.
else.
There was there was something else happening.
Yeah.
I think back there.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
We got a text that came in 780-218-9999 if you want to get in on the conversation. Winnipeg Guy, WPG Guy. I think I'm saying it right. Says, morning, folks. My son's band, Sparrow Blue, headline Saturday night at Starlight Room. Great show.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
Cam Moon will just look at the Starlight Room website like a month ahead and just see what type of shows there. And if he kind of has heard a name, he'll just head to a show.
I texted Mooner.
loves
I
going
said, this show is missing you right now.
I
Use
should have.
intent text in.
Yeah, I didn't want to make.
Oh,
We were texting that night. There's a lot of other good things happening for Edmonton that night. So
Yes, there was.
a lot of good football news from the city.
Quite a bit.
So where do we want to go? Do we want to go football? Do we want to go baseball? Do we want to go hockey?
No, I definitely want to start with football if that's okay with you guys.
Let's go.
Because I'm fascinated by this. Dave, you just take the Elks. Like I've been
Mhm.
watching this. Of course, I worked for them for a number of years. I kind of came in when TD Force was the athletic trainer there, and Machocha was the coach, and now the leadership that was there then has come back, which is pretty fascinating to me. But here's the thing that I don't understand, guys, because I don't know enough what was going on. How does it change at the upper management level influence on-field play as much as it did? I'm just looking at this going, okay, there must be more to this story than meets the eye because it doesn't correlate for me knowing what I know about sport.
I think it's a coincidence because there was the change at the top, which had nothing to do with football, but also at the exact same time they had a new OC and a new quarterback.
Right.
And that's what the change was.
So do
The
you
OC and the QB have just transformed this entire team, and the offense is playing better. And by extension, that is like I think given the defense a little bit confidence, a little more experience for some of the younger players. That's also we're seeing that development come. I think that this is just one where the two changes happen at the same time. It's more coincidence.
So was that change at the top knee jerk then? Could they not have waited?
It had nothing to do with football.
Oh, okay.
And nothing to do with football.
All right.
It had to happen, Crush.
It did.
Yeah.
That had to happen. And listen, if I were ever to have a mentor in sport, Rick Lawless-Shearer would be one of those mentors, man. I have so much respect for that man. Just seeing him in action when I was with the team and my little role, working with the guys on the field. So they're in a really good place now upstairs, it seems, and also on the field. I love these turnarounds.
Yeah.
I love it.
Apparently, it's like night and day around that building. Just the vibe is much better.
Well, when you're
Obviously,
winning, it helps.
but the attitude and the tone as well separate the football side from the front office side. Apparently, it's a lot better. There's some relief there. The winning on the field also feeds that, which is great. And then on the field, Maddie talked about offensive coordinator Jerry Jackson's taken over, and now there's some creativity. We saw some flair for the dramatic on Friday, obviously. Some luck in that game. I think of the Marcus Lewis interception, but sometimes that goes hand in hand. You think about, and you talk a lot specifically about like mind in a game format and setting and how that helps and how you can create positive, all that kind of stuff. So all of that seems to be going in the right direction now, front office, on the field, and everybody's rowing in the same direction.
I mean, that also just goes to show you leadership, period. Doesn't matter if there's a
Touche.
whole ton of touching, like inside the dressing room from Victor, like it just from the top down, it just has completely changed.
Yeah.
Also, I have to comment on Stephen McAdoo. He never comes back, right? Like this is finally it for him.
He's a consultant.
He's a consultant
Well,
with the
yeah,
team.
of course, yeah. I
know.
but like an actual like position. Because that guy has survived so much, and it's insane to me because there is nobody more boring in football. Nobody more uncreative
I look at
Well,
currently.
I mean,
Chris
that
Jones.
0-9
I could see
start.
Chris
Yeah.
Jones finding a spot for him, even if
I
it's
know.
the
See,
same role.
that's
Even if it's the same role as advisor to the on the defense or whatever it is, or giving him offensive line or like some sort of position. I could see Steve McAdoo still being part of this team next year, just not in the OC role.
Loyalty runs deep, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
Otherwise,
you-
why isn't he just gone right now?
I
Could
agree,
you
Quinn. but-
imagine having the ability to like be that bad at what you do and keep your job or keep jobs?
Some would say that that's me.
Yeah,
For the
well,
last 14
no.
years. Something like that.
Yes.
These guys took
Less
me
matter.
here. So
Yes, because I've witnessed it, and with multiple organizations and sports teams that people that you're like, what do you even do? Like your track record with this team is terrible, and people still get jobs and they get brought back, and there's the old boys club, if you will. That's a thing. It happens. So I want to say no, I can't believe, but yes, I believe that could happen.
It happens in the corporate world too,
Yeah.
right? There's
It's
a lot of
recycled.
people. Yeah.
Krush,
So-
you were part. So you mentioned you were with the Elks. You were with the Blue Jays before too.
Yeah.
Now you're not a player, but you're around the team, strength, conditioning, all that. Have you ever been around a team that had a change like this midseason, or like did you ever feel
Oh,
like a
my-
culture shift happen at some point?
Yeah. So the Blue Jays were an interesting time when I was
Yeah.
there. So I came in as a young pro. It was lightning in a bottle. So I was the first minor league strength coach the team ever had, and I was the second guy in all of baseball. So when I came in, that position didn't exist. So I came in as a young pro and got to build that entire program from scratch, which was that just will never happen again to anybody. So it was kind of a real cool spot. But here's the thing: ownership. It was an Austrian beer company. Was a big main owner in the Blue Jays. They wanted out, and so ownership was up in the air. The team was pretty unstable in terms of their investment in player signings. Gordash was the GM at the time. He was in a tenuous situation because ownership and everything, even the existence of the club at that time. And then, of course, the sale took over. In my time there, in the 7 or 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, probably end to end that I was with the team, we had 5 managers in the big leagues. And when I was with the guys, you could just see their heads spinning because every manager brought in a new coaching staff. So there was a new hitting coach, and then there was a new pitching coach, and then there was a new infielding coach, and all of them had their nuances. They're all great people. Let me just put that on there. They were all great people with great intentions. But these players, man, their heads were spinning. We didn't have a chance. And so that gets me thinking about organizations that are successful, right? And that solid core leadership, and not just in the playing roster, but from the top down, and that consistency and direction. Sometimes there's times to change, change at the top. If you any, if you really wanted to stay successful, like Tiger Woods, you change when you're at the top, right? But these guys were changing reaction, partly because of ownership, and then once the new ownership took over, it was just finger pointing, trying to get a grip. So I have seen it. I have never been around it long enough to see it actually take hold, because I believe we could have had success, but everybody was knee jerk and it was a revolving door.
How power ranking this Elks team right now? Where are they 1 through 9 in the CFL? Is it crazy to put them like top 3?
Yes, that's crazy. That
Like
seems
power
crazy.
rank is like how they're playing right now.
Yeah, 4 wins in the last 5, right?
Could have beat Calgary. You could also go back to had that lead against Winnipeg.
Yeah. So they've been
Who's
in it
scarier
for the
right
last
now if you're seeing a team on the schedule?
7 games. Who's
Toronto
scary?
is.
Toronto, Winnipeg.
yeah.
But like a
BC,
recent
not so
Winnipeg
much,
just dropped
obviously.
to Hamilton.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. This past week in the CFL was nuts.
BC's hasn't been great for a while.
Yeah, they've fallen off.
Hamilton, no. Montreal, no. Saskatchewan, no. Calgary, no. Ottawa, absolutely
Okay.
not.
He's making a case
is
for
Winnipeg
it.
and Toronto the only 2 teams that you would not want to see on your schedule right now over the Elks? Who right
I
now
don't
with how they
know.
play, we're not looking the whole season. We're not talking about just like talent, but they are red hot right now. They had the 22-0 lead against Winnipeg. Second half blew it. Won their next 2. Could have beat Calgary and Labor Day. Had the nice comeback against Calgary and then beat Saskatchewan last week.
The case for them is that they do have the actual talent on the roster to be a better team. It was obviously a mess the first half of the season, on the field, off the field. cleaned all of that up, or a lot of it up so far. I look at how bad that first half of the season goes, and I'm like, okay, maybe put them 5. Put them at 5 because
There's I don't know, there's been like change, like, right, like Gino Lewis comes back, he's
yeah,
healthy now, right, which
yeah,
is like such a big addition, obviously. And I mean, they have all the momentum, and you just look at those guys Instagram after and like how fired up they are. And even Gino Lewis like talking about Trey Ford and like how like he's good, like, like he's so excited about him.
hmm
And I think that that goes a long way.
And Kevin Brown
Because
running
like
game has been
oh
huge.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kevin Brown, exactly. But you have a bunch of guys who really actually finally believe in themselves again right now. And
they still have 10 losses this year.
I know, but we're not
yeah,
talking about the season. Like
I
if that's
know, but right
like
now, but
current
like,
how they're playing. If
and
you're,
it sows doubt. That's why I'm
absolutely.
being a pessimist
So
here,
where
and
would
I
you
totally
put
understand.
5? Like, so then who are you putting ahead right now of like recent
Toronto,
play?
Winnipeg. I think you could make the case Saskatchewan even. Maybe you look at BC and go, that team should be better. And I still think they could beat the Elks. And people would listen to that argument. Montreal's fallen off too a little bit.
Yeah. I think with the
I
way
don't
the
know.
Elks are
Yeah,
playing, that they're a team you don't want to face right now in the CFL. And now we're gonna really know when you look at their schedule coming up. You've
right.
got the BC Lions, you're gonna get the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Montreal and Toronto are all in there. So take the Montreal out to a degree. Those other 3, we're gonna see how well this team does match up. If they want that quote unquote playoff push, which is very unlikely, they'll have earned it.
Yeah.
I'll go so far as saying if they make the playoffs, you don't want to see them.
Yeah.
Hot takes, Matty. Hot takes.
If they make the playoffs, that means they beat BC, Winnipeg, and Toronto
Right.
likely. They're rolling at that point.
Yeah. One game at a time. This is momentum, right? I mean,
That's
this is
the
going to be
game.
fun to watch. They've got something cooking. They
And
do
their
it.
defense, like Dusty had the stat in their last 2 games, I think it is. They've outscored their opponents. Like I can't remember how many points, but they haven't given a point in the fourth quarter. Last 2 games.
Wow.
That's what you want from your defense.
Yeah.
You want them to step up and not give up points. It's in the biggest moment, and that comes after they had 2 blown leads in 4 weeks. They've now come out not giving up a point in the fourth quarter. I would not want to play the Elks right now if I'm
and
their team.
certainly like overcame some adversity, like
Yeah.
that penalty, and and then they just didn't let it get to them. Like there was some opportunity for Saskatchewan to just get right back in there, and the Elks battled. So
We're different. We'll see on Friday.
Okay.
We'll see on Friday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Friday.
This is going to be like,
If they win that game, I think that's a huge step in the right direction. Again,
well, and even
among
just
many that they've taken in the last month and a half.
what do we want to see from the team in those 3 games? Again, taking Montreal out of this for next year, though. Like, where do we look at success for this team moving towards next year? Is it going 1 and 2? Is it just being close in all 3 games? The result doesn't matter. What's important out of those 3 games for this
What do
Elks
you
team
think?
against the Bombers, Lions, and Argos?
well, I mean wins are everything, obviously, right?
Can you take moral victories?
I don't want to say moral victories right now. If you win of 2 of 3, I think that's like, I mean, obvious massive success. Yeah, I don't think moral victories. Well, I don't
This
know.
is a
You
season
but
where
then
no
but then
one
you
wants
talk
moral
about
victories.
you talk
after
about
everything.
the first half of the season, and it's just like maybe moral victories is it, right? Maybe we're being too hard on them because of where they've come from. This is also building off of last season too. Like this isn't, like, so it's been a very long stretch of very bad football.
Yeah.
So
Do you think the pessimism is a product of how poor this team has performed the last 3 years? Has to be.
Sure.
oh, of course.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
It's the same with the Oilers. Like like those bad years. It
Like 10 of
Right?
them
yeah.
in a row.
Those few
Ouch.
bad years.
Ouch.
There weren't that
Yeah.
many. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I'm gonna say we're going for the W. There's no question about it. Like of course they are wins are everything, as Quinn said. But listen, if they can keep it close and keep this fan base energized, go into the offseason, win, lose, or draw with some momentum and some promise, they have to get this fan base back. It's such a huge, huge part of the game. And I think if they can do that, they can hold their heads high because it's been ugly, man.
Yeah. I'll say this. At the stadium against Calgary in the Labor Day rematch, it was a much better crowd. I know they announced 32, whether or not 32,000 were there.
I think that was pretty close.
You think
I
so?
think that one was a close 32.
Well,
Like earlier this year when they took on Saskatchewan, there was a lot of Rider fans, and then there's a couple other games where they're pretty high. I think those were tickets out. Obviously, 32 is tickets out, but I think that was as close to a 32 as you're going to get.
it was the best crowd of the year, for
It
sure.
was packed.
But the thing that struck me is how everyone who was there, outside of the one section in the southeast corner that was all Stamps fans, everyone in green and gold wanted that team to win. Like,
Yes.
and there it wasn't paper bags on heads, and that was funny earlier in the year. It was people were rooting for this team regardless of, nobody was talking about the stupid name change. Nobody's, well, they didn't win since they were called the S1. It was none of that. They were actively rooting for that team to win. And maybe it's despite or in spite of Calgary, whatever, but everyone was on the same page. And I think people here actually want to cheer for the team. They want to see it have success. They're over the name change. They're over how crappy the team has been for the last few years. And I liked that vibe. And when they were rewarded, it was great. The atmosphere was great.
And the style of victory just could not have been better for the organization. Because that was just so much fun.
Great.
I brought somebody, Kate Doyle with the Oilers. I brought her
What
to
up,
her first Elks game. And she had a blast. Like, she bought a hat. She's like, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
She had such a good time. And it was fully out of how they won because there was so much thrill in that victory. I also sang the fight song for her, and she was blown away. She had no idea that existed.
Really?
And
she's a BC girl, right?
No, Ontario.
Ontario. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
Sudbury.
Sorry, Kate.
Yeah. Yeah, so she just loved the whole experience. That was her first time inside Commonwealth Stadium.
What?
And she's been in Edmonton for 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah.
So
There's not a lot going on at Commonwealth, right? If you're not going to an Elks game, there's not a lot of other opportunities to get to Commonwealth. So it does make sense.
Oh, okay. But from Explore Edmonton's perspective, I'm going to talk about the things that we're trying to do there.
Yes,
We
which
are
would be
trying,
great.
like concerts,
Yes.
like we are bringing a lot of concerts in. We do need to activate that stadium more because
But that's
we have the
hard
infrastructure
to do
there.
concert-wise, right? Because
Uh,
it's such a massive stadium. Like,
no, they've done it. They've done so many shows there that are great. They've got Metallica coming.
no, I know, but you
Oh,
need
yeah.
the big bands.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
it's
of
hard. Like,
course,
you
yeah.
can't just get.
Like Taylor Swift. Not that I'm a Taylor Swift fan, but
Oh.
hello,
Come on down.
you would do well there.
Well, but and I will say, like, Commonwealth seems to be used a lot more these last few years than
Yeah,
it used to
you
be.
have to try to use it.
Before
Yeah.
it was just the Elks games, and
Mhm.
maybe you got one other event.
Mhm.
Last summer, what was it? There was Monster Jam, the Pope, all the Elks. There was a couple that was packed at Commonwealth. But that's my thing, just with Kate. Like, there's only so many days. If you're not going to an
100%,
Elks
yeah.
game, it's not like Rogers Place where you got Oil Kings, you got Oilers, you got concerts, you got other events to see it. So I'm not totally surprised she hasn't seen it.
And I mean, it's such a limited season, right?
Yeah.
Like once it gets too cold. Although snowboarding,
Is that
coming
coming
back.
back?
How
It's
cool
coming
is
back.
That's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah,
that was great.
it's-
And that went
it's
off very
fun.
well too, right?
Yeah.
I was not skeptical, but I was incredibly interested to see how that was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't get there live because I was
Yeah.
traveling, but I was watching online and I saw all the replays. The crowd loved it. Athletes loved it.
Yeah.
And television loved it.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
It's a wild thing to watch them get set up and everything. Like they had a lot of manual labor, like pushing the snow up. Like they didn't get the greatest weather to get the best snow to get set up for it.
It's warm, wasn't it?
Or it was really cold. I can't remember
remember.
which one it was.
I think it was
Was it
cold,
really
but there wasn't a
December?
lot of snow, right? Until the very end.
Yeah, and then so they were
Yeah.
trucking in a ton of snow that they like, but then like when the snow gets trucked in, it's all like packed together. So then they have to break it up and then they have to move it up and stuff. But the athletes were blown away. Like I'll never forget Mark McMorris just being like but he was scared too, because he said with those things, like those athletes said, like when you're on a mountain, you can kind of like go in, get into it, that kind of thing, right? That like you just have to drop in. Like you don't get to ease into it. Like you are just dropping in and it is straight down. It's wild.
It looked like I always would drive up Stadium Road and I would see I'm like, what is going on? Like, what are they taking out seats for? This is crazy. And then you see it and you realize how low the stadium goes into beyond the second deck. And that's a huge jump. Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
I mean, you
crazy.
run those stairs and you realize how steep it is.
Yeah, right.
November Project, shout out.
Those athletes are crazy. All of that, the skiing, all like with what you're doing. What's the jump one? I
knees hurt
forgot.
just, like,
Nordic
thinking about
jumping or
it.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I don't know how
Ski jumping.
you
Oh,
could be into
yeah.
that.
Mike Texan says concerts at Commonwealth are amazing, but the infrastructure can't accommodate near the max capacity of fans. That's from Mike. Quinn, do you have any insight into that? I
There
think,
would be a lot of dead seats,
and
just because of where the stage is. But you have to remember also you have the ability to fill up the floor, which like increases capacity as well.
Right.
So
55.
but I
For
think
concert
Mike is
solo?
referencing like
Oh.
restrooms, concessions,
See, and I don't want to
and
get
all of
Quinn
that.
mad.
Well, I don't want to
but
get
that
No.
trouble
was
either, but
well, but that was
I get it.
that's because we're not getting the World Cup. That would
Oh,
have
that's
all,
what you mean by not making me mad. Now I'm mad.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, I'm sorry to go there and stuff, but like, if we get the World Cup in 2026, money is being spent to upgrade Commonwealth Stadium.
Yeah.
And now it's okay. Well, how do we upgrade a Commonwealth Stadium? How do you go to any level of government with a strong business case to be like, hey, we need to upgrade better bathrooms at Commonwealth right now when you don't have a World Cup coming? And that's why that hurts even more.
Yeah, and it's a lot of money for a very big stadium that, like you said, doesn't get used as much as it could. It doesn't fill up. I'm pro new stadium with a lower capacity.
that sounds like a lot of Elks employees too.
Okay, I have a question
Really?
then for that,
Yeah.
since you're with Explore Edmonton.
Oh.
How do we attract big concerts then if we have a smaller stadium? Because that's the thing I have is I agree football wise, soccer wise, having a small 25,000 seater would be fantastic.
No, it has to be like upwards of 40. 25.
You still think
to
that?
me, 25,000 seats is so bush league. I really.
you could create
That's just
such
my
an atmosphere.
perspective.
Okay,
I understand.
That's how Toronto got a.
Let's go
World Cup.
32-5. We'll go in
Yeah.
the middle. 32-5 here.
35.
But
I
how do
still
you get
think you
the
need at
Garth
least
Brooks to come to Edmonton?
Well, I mean, Garth Brooks came and played 9 shows at Rogers Place, so.
And he
But
got a
that
banner.
outdoor show, like certain there's those stadium concerts that happen. And
absolutely. I guess
can
no,
we
that's
keep
totally
Commonwealth
fair.
going and another
I don't
stadium?
know how you keep it going. No, and I don't.
That's
I mean,
that's the concern I
that's
have.
so much upkeep money. And like you said, like, have we had enough big concerts that I don't know. You know what? Like, honestly, like and I'm
That's
not
why I
the
will fight
expert
the
in that, and
Commonwealth.
I don't want people like the people of the city are like, shut up, Quinn. You don't know what you're
Sorry.
talking about, Quinn. No, but
That's where I'll always be in pro Commonwealth camp. I'll fight for Commonwealth.
yeah,
Because I want the option to have Luke's Combs to come to Edmonton for a
well, and
stadium
here's
trip.
the thing, Commonwealth, we put a snowboard jump in.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have like Commonwealth, we have Monster Jam come there. So
Mhm.
yeah, I get that. There is the opportunity to bring in major events there.
So hey, Quinn, would Garth Brooks have come, or would Metallica come if that was a smaller stadium?
I would think so, yes,
Yeah.
probably.
See, that's the thing, right? If you
You don't
Garth
think
Brooks,
so?
I don't
Garth
think
Brooks
I would
does-
have to
Garth
honestly.
Brooks
I
does
would
12 shows instead of 9. Metallica does 4 instead of 2.
well, I said I'd have to look at where they're going. I don't think they go places that are only 30-some thousand seats for a
Yeah.
stadium. I think the stadiums that they're hitting are NFL
The big
type
ones.
stadiums or
Yeah,
soccer
that's-
stadiums across
that's
the
the
pond,
question.
and they're
Yeah,
pulling
those
in
stadium
they're
tours,
pulling in
yeah.
60,000-70,000
That's one of the things that makes
And-
Edmonton special too, right?
because we have that stadium
Yeah.
that can be done. We have BC Place, Rogers Center. We have one ourselves. It's just disappointing that it can only be used certain months of the year. Unlike those ones, it could be 12 months of the year.
Yeah.
You know what
But
people are going to
that's-
say?
Film
Build
it.
a covered stadium.
And see, that's
Guess how much that costs? Billions.
well,
now.
it was half a bill for BC Place.
Yeah.
No
and that
way.
was
wow.
2011.
yeah. So
It was like
what is it
600
now?
million.
20, so 12, yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking. You're right. It's billions of dollars. to do.
Especially that is so much to cover
Yeah.
there.
So that's why I go. I don't think those shows would come.
Yeah.
I don't think Metallica coming for the 2 shows at the end of next year. Again, I would have to look at their tour and see all the stadiums that they're going to and see what capacity is. But I think that's a little too small for them.
Yep.
They're trying to hit the stadium because they want to get all that money too. They're Metallica. Have you seen the tickets for Metallica next year?
Are they expensive?
Oh boy.
That's
Really?
an
'Cause I wanna
understatement.
go. I wanna
That's almost
go.
an understatement of
Right?
the pricing for that.
And then
one.
hypothetical, since we're going down this road,
Yeah.
say Edmonton at some point says, it's no longer feasible to maintain Commonwealth Stadium. The
Yeah.
amount it would cost to upkeep it isn't worth it compared to building a new 35,000 seat stadium. And then and then
32.5 middle. Yeah.
right. Then those mega concerts that do hit Edmonton and have been so memorable, skip it over completely. And then people here and in Alberta go, yeah, Edmonton never gets those big concerts anymore. So it's
And that's where
balancing act.
that World Cup really hurts us.
Yeah.
In,
I
in
agree.
so many different, the domino of it is in so many
I'm looking
different
at
ways.
Quinn right now. She's
It's so defeating. I just have yeah, that was a tough
it's good.
time. Yeah.
I'll say it because you probably can't. Provincial government really screwed it up, whether it was on purpose or not, but they screwed that one up so bad.
I also
There's
blame the
so
president.
bad.
so many factors. There's
Yeah.
so many factors, and so many of them played against us, and
Yeah.
were played against us.
Yes.
Can I play hypothetical with you guys? Let's say we would get a 32,000 seat stadium. Where would you put it? Where do you think ideally it would work in this city?
Where Remax Field is.
No.
No?
Cam Moon's gonna
Where
bolt through this door right away and like get mad at you. You would get rid of the baseball stadium?
I would never want to get rid of the baseball stadium. I think the ideal
it would
spot
be an
would
ideal
probably be
spot.
right where Commonwealth is right now.
I actually agree with the ideal spot would be Remax. That location would be unbelievable.
You just need a train
It
going
would be,
there.
but you're not touching that one.
East end of Jasper Avenue
Oh
is a
yeah,
space also
that needs some love.
or where the Coliseum is, but then you have to completely develop that area because you already have the Expo Center there.
Yeah.
And then you need to put hotels there. We need to have hotels by our convention centers.
Yeah.
And so
where the horse track used to be.
That's what I was gonna say.
Is that the one?
That's what I was gonna say.
I forget about that.
Man,
spot all the time.
I missed that racetrack there. That was such a cool scene down there. I used to go with my dad and my brother all the time. We used to go watch the horses and the Klondike days down there and stuff. But what is wrong with that area? I mean, it's such a great area, and I don't think it's really being developed the way they had planned, right? I mean, you'll know more than
I don't have a whole ton of on that. There is a lot of chatter about that, but I don't know.
Do you have the public transit?
Unfortunately,
It's right there.
Yeah.
You got the roadways coming in.
The Expo Center, I will say, this is one of our key messages at Explore Edmonton. Like, it's 522,000 square feet. It's a huge space. It can play host to any kind of event. We have a small arena in there, the Flair Airlines hangar.
Yep.
It is an incredible
venue there a couple years ago. Like, it was great.
It's
it was
a
awesome
really
for
good
concert.
venue. We need more around there.
It's just in a forgotten part of town. It's become a forgotten part of town. Simple as that.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we could get that going. Like, there's been some really cool ideas thrown out on that whole land. It'd be nice to get a little bit, but that maybe would be a spot to put a nice small stadium because you got the LRT right there anyways. And
look what the Edmonton Entertainment Group has done for downtown, right? I mean, again, I don't know all the data and details, but I can just walk down there and see it to life, right? And we have a ways to go downtown, it sounds like. But that other area over where the racetrack was, what a great spot for revitalization. And I know the idea behind that new community where the airport was sounds really, really cool. But I agree that for me would be ground zero for a cool sort of mid-sized stadium that you could just rock out with sports and concerts and events all year round.
I take back my Remax Field thing. I apologize to the baseball fans out there. It's a great jewel of a stadium.
But they're mad at you? Are they mad at you?
I'm just saying because
Well, and we have to look at using Remax Field other ways as well.
Yeah.
I think there's some events that we could also bring down there because it is such a jewel. Like, why wouldn't we want to be down there more?
I know.
Well, why can't we bring other events down there?
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Is there enough room over by the Kinsman? Like, I know the football fields are there and everything, but could that space accommodate a mid-sized stadium?
You'd be having to get rid of some things.
Yeah, I don't think the Huskies would love you.
Yeah, but maybe we could really support the Huskies more.
Unless they use it.
Oh yeah, I guess they could. Yeah, they could play.
Maybe that could be their.
The flip side is, do you redevelop that land and then when you tear down Commonwealth, make that something else?
Or work it out with the U of A and do something really cool at the Savelle Center, Foot Field.
Redo that spot.
That area is pretty hot too, man. I love that whole complex. Is there enough room there though?
Yeah, I don't know if the footprint would allow to increase this much.
Though, I think.
Plattsburgh would also be open. Like, you got everything that's what's happening there. Maybe you could slot one into the
there's no shortage.
But then, Quinn, would you be able to support Commonwealth and a midsize?
No.
That's where
no.
it's going
That's
with.
where you
Then
have
that's
to-
what hypothetical I'm going with. Like,
Yeah.
okay, we're getting rid of Commonwealth, but where would you want this other stadium?
Yeah.
Which would have to have a retractable roof.
Yeah, I think so.
Billions.
Yes.
Billions.
Yeah.
Jeffy texts in at the inbox 780-218-9999. Jeffy says, keep Commonwealth, remove the stupid hanging speaker in the middle, keep renovating and configure seating for different events. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been to a lot of outdoor stadiums, football, baseball. Commonwealth and McMahon are like the only ones that have the hanging center.
I think McMahon's
speakers.
upgraded their speakers.
Have they?
I think in the
Oh my
last year or
gosh,
so they've
okay.
upgraded speakers. I think
It's such a
cannot fall behind-
70s thing.
Oh.
It's so bad. It needs to go.
McMahon
could be wrong
Stadium.
on that one. It could
I
be
have
a
my
little off
own
on that one.
comments about that place.
That
the
McMahon
worst.
Stadium is one of the
It's
worst
so
stadiums
gross.
I've ever
The
been.
Yeah.
fact that you can't just
Yeah.
walk around the whole stadium.
Well, and
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
Unless you exit the building and come back in.
oh,
That's not allowed.
outrageous. Well, you know what? And like, you know, we're talking about this and we're so lucky. I remember Dave Dickinson said after the Grey Cup here, he said, always so jealous of Edmonton. We always he's like, I bring my kids up here for sporting events because you guys have the facilities.
Mhm.
So we are very lucky. So
But you can get rid of the hanging speaker from center field and still be so lucky. I just
Oh,
think we
yeah,
can
yeah.
step into the
Yeah.
2020s.
yeah, it's funny. So they put up like the LED screens and stuff, and
Yeah.
but it's just like, but the speaker.
It's so bad.
You know what's funny is I've never really thought much about it, but you're right.
Yeah. So we get used to it. Like we're from here. You go to games here for years and years and years. Then you go anywhere else and you're like, where's their hanging speaker? Oh, they don't have one. And then you go to another city, you go to a football. Where's their hanging speaker? Oh, you don't have one?
Oh, that's not the thing anymore?
You don't do
It's called being
Jeffy,
retro.
you are right. Thank you for that text.
It's called being retro.
That
We're
it's-
in everyone.
Vintage is
Things are going
in.
to
Live
things
in
are
the
going to turn
now,
around.
Matthew.
Yeah.
New stadiums are going to be built. They're going to be going, let's get this hanging speaker like they do in Edmonton
And the
Calgary.
guy who
And
we're gonna be
suggests that
ahead of
gets
it.
fired immediately from that construction project. That's how that goes.
Oh, yeah. There's no money in this for Edmonton.
Yeah.
It's not happening. Blue Jays.
Oh boy.
What do you think of this team right now?
Yeah, they are close. So close yet so far. It's been a frustrating year for Jays fans, I think, because they should be better than they are.
They've aged a lot too, I'm sure, Jays fans.
Yeah, I agree.
It's one of those teams where you're in the middle of a playoff race, you're holding a playoff spot, but the fans have no faith in the team for good reason too, which is just such a weird thing to see.
Yeah. Baseball is so hard. It's just so hard, man. You look at Vladdy and all these great young talents, the ups and the downs of the game, the impact a single injury can have on a roster right now. I love it. I love the game. I love working with those athletes. It's a very, very special sport because it will expose you. There's no cheating in the game of baseball. You can't. It's not like some of the other sports where you can, really lean on your teammates maybe a little bit more. At some point, it's you and the ball, right?
And a nice needle with a little vial. That's the cheating.
Sorry,
Cry. Sorry.
It's been a little bit proven that you can cheat in baseball,
But
but
Crush is talking about like
Yeah.
on the field, the
Yeah,
day to day.
I
I'm
agree.
talking about
Yeah.
I'm talking about that. That's a discussion for another day. That's a real source.
That's a different
spot
hangout.
for me.
We got
Yeah.
your back.
Yeah, that's a different hangout for sure.
So what's wrong with this team though? When they're bad?
I don't know. Like, let's talk about the Yankees right now.
No.
Yes.
No.
Look, let's talk about. Okay, so look.
No.
So can I just throw this out? The start of every season, Crush Performance, we don't necessarily have a team we follow. Like I don't have a team in baseball that I'm a huge fan of, though I have an attachment to the Jays, of course, right? The Raiders are probably my team in football simply because they were the first team I sort of really noticed as a kid because all the fans were geared up in those crazy costumes. So I fell in love with the Raiders, right? But yeah, at the start of every season, we pick teams, players, and storylines to watch. And we do it for a couple of reasons because we want to learn what in the heck is going on, right? And so at the start of this season, the Mets, of course, the
Yeah.
Dodgers, of course, the Yankees, the Blue Jays were our team, but the Rays and the Orioles were also two of our top teams to watch this year because what? You have the Mets with the highest payroll in the history of the game, I believe, 343 million or something. Then you have the Yankees, number 2, 279 or somewhere in there, right? And the Mets are 26 games back.
They were out early.
early. The Yankees are 18 and a half back right now. They're out of it. They're so far away. Like, listen to me. The Baltimore Orioles have the third lowest payroll in the game at 71 million, right in there somewhere. And the Tampa Bay Rays have the fourth lowest payroll at 79. And they are going to the postseason, probably, depending on what happens with that second wild card. I don't know how you put a finger on what's going on with a team that's struggling, because the Yankees should not be. At the midway through the first half, I said all will be as it should be in baseball by the All-Star break. Looking at the All-Star break and going, what is happening on earth here?
Yeah.
Right?
Crush and Baltimore and Tampa did clinch playoff spots.
They're in.
Yeah.
They're in. So
I love that the Rays have just stayed good.
Kevin Cash.
I don't know how.
Kevin Cash took over. He was one of our players, and I remember working with Kevin. Special person, but his leadership now, he's really come into himself as a leader. But you talk about leadership.
I'm so intrigued though. What kind of person? Like, what do you mean by special person?
He was just one of those team guys. He was a catcher, right? And so he was one of the guys coming up as sort of a fringe player coming up, because we had the superstars in the big leagues, but he was working his way up. But he took control and really, he's one of those guys, I think, just from my working with him behind the scenes. He would be one of those early work guys, right? We would go out in the morning in Tampa where the grass is all covered in dew. And I would get those guys with their turf shoes on, with no friction, no grip at all. And we would do movement and agility drills on the wet grass. And I say, guys, you cannot slip or fall. Slow and steady. But they would do the work early in the morning. And nobody does more work over the course of the day than a catcher. But I think, just watching him go, just from the small time I was with him, he made every pitcher better. And he worked his way up and played some big league time. And now he's a leader in the game, right? I love this. And I love to see these guys that I've been around as players now working their way into front offices and coaching roles, because they get it. Good guys, though. All of them. Like, man, fun to watch. But there's something special going on in Tampa. There's certainly something really special going on in Baltimore. And it's one of those teams like maybe the Detroit Red Wings of old, where everybody's looking, what's going on in Detroit? Let's try to copy it. These teams with money can't even come close.
That's because the solution to them is just spend more money.
Yeah.
Which isn't what they're doing in Tampa or Baltimore.
Yeah. You know who is? You know who's doing that with money? The Dodgers.
Yeah.
At 10 postseasons in 11 years.
Who's the head of their baseball? Because they took him from the Rays, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Friedman or something?
Yes. Google it.
On it.
It slips my mind.
Yeah. Because they took him from the Rays, and that's one where I thought at the time, like, okay, the Rays are going to now struggle because their guy is gone.
Yeah.
They've just managed to stay good, and the Dodgers have gotten good.
And then the Braves guys, listen to me. We talk about leadership. He was a young executive when I was there. He was assistant GM coming up, so I got to know him a little bit. Mm-hmm. But boy, oh boy, there's special people once in a while in sport, and you know who they are because of what they do and contribute. You can just see the impact they have. He's one of them, man. Like to step away from the Jays the way he did, and to go into the EOS of baseball, the other side, come back with the Dodgers as an advisor, and then get the job just by, the Braves are so lucky that that crappy stuff happened to get Alex.
Right.
And look at them. Oh my gosh, the Braves and the Dodgers. If you want to see teams that are doing it right from the top down leadership with a budget, there's so much to learn there.
Andrew Friedman.
Oh, Andrew Friedman. Yes, that's who it is.
On the team, the person that got this going that way was Theo Epstein in Boston.
No question.
Like Billy Bean, Moneyball started it all. He just never had the money. Theo took those principles, but then also said, I got the big checkbook to supplement this. He did it there, did it in Chicago, and just doing some amazing things. If Trump, are we going to see changes there at the end of this year?
Oh,
I'm going to have to think Ross Atkins, if they don't get to, what would they have to get to for him to save his job, I think, just with where this team is this year. And I don't know, does that mean Mark Shapiro is also on the chopping block?
Yeah, I think that time is coming. I don't know this for sure, but I think the pressure's on, right? I mean, something has to change. They have the talent in the field. I believe the coaching staff is outstanding. I mean,
Aren't people complain about Schneider?
Yeah.
They want to
I think people want
Don
Pete Walker.
Mattingly in.
Pete Walker, boy.
I think Pete Walker's the guy everyone wants to remain on that staff.
Okay.
But Everyone else
Listen,
can go.
Pete Walker's one of those special dudes too, man. Like he was one of my players as well, and we'll stay in touch once in a while. And to see what you just know, like he's a guy that he worked for his career, right? And then he went over to Japan and played and got that experience as well. So he can relate to those international players as well. He's seen the world of baseball, comes back as a coach, and I've just seen him, recreate guys. That's the power of coaching, man. Good coaches. It's such a special position in sport.
Tay says Jay's base running and base management was awful this weekend.
Yeah.
And they've won 3 in a row.
They beat the Red Sox.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Good point.
They get the Yankees now. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Either my Yankees are going to ruin things for Toronto, or the Jays are going to sweep them and put themselves right in the playoff spot and basically clinch because of the Yankees. I'm predicting that one because the Yankees blow. Aaron Boone needs to be fired.
There you go. Straight up there.
He should have never gotten the job. It should have still been Joe Girardi. I didn't like the firing of Joe Girardi.
Another text comes in from Scalding Gord. I miss the scrappy underdog feel of the Jays with the Grichuk, Gurriel Jr., Hernandez, and Rowdy Tella's crew. To me, it was Springsteen. May not be the greatest pure talent, but you felt every note. That's from Scalding Gord.
Nice. I like it, but I feel what he's saying. And I agree. There's a grittiness that's gone, right? I love the guys are having fun.
Yep.
I really, really do. But sometimes I want to see that freaking just dread of failure. And sometimes I just don't see it. And I'm not just talking about the Jays. I'm talking maybe sport in general. It's time to change it.
You're getting very emotional right now. Are you seeing this, Quinn?
Yeah.
I just
Actually,
think
you're right. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to get
No, I
emotional.
love it.
No,
By the way,
I'm
you
for
said
it.
freaking. It's
Let
like
it
that. That's not even a
go.
broadcast thing. I don't think I've ever heard you say the actual F word.
No.
It's always freaking, and I love it.
Look, here's the thing. I just think I watch teams, and I'm not saying I know more than anybody else, but I just think there's such untapped potential out there yet. I watch these teams, and we're watching the NFL right now. I've got my teams to watch, I've got my players to watch, and I've got my storylines to watch. And I just watch the Browns have been one of our players or one of our teams to watch for the last 5 years since 2011 when the new ownership took over. I'm going, okay, let's watch and see how this reformation. And it was supposed to be in the South. They were up and down, and now this year they're coming around. Why can't they get it right? Like, I just can't. I can't for the life of me figure out why they can't get it right. How is it possible that the Mets, and I'll tell you this right now, and I said this on my podcast last week, if there was one team that came to me and said, Jeff, you want to come work with us? I would go work with the New York Mets right now. That when that ownership happened, you have a guy who went to the games as a kid, like the Knothole gang. He loved watching his Mets as a kid with his dad and his family or whatever. And now he's one of the richest owners in the game, and he wants to win for the fans. And I'm rooting for this organization so hard.
So why would you want to go work for them? Like, do you just want to see the insides and see what's wrong?
No, I want to help them achieve their goal. Because
Right.
the New York Mets fans deserve just a championship ride like the Dodgers. Don't think it's that hard to create. I don't. I just don't know why it's so hard, maybe.
I also
Well-
just want to throw out there quickly. Jeff does get job offers from Major League Baseball teams.
Yes,
a
he
lot.
did work for the
legit-
Jays.
Really?
He still gets job offers from teams. So like him saying, "I wish I could get them," that could happen. I
Would
just
you
want to
still
throw
do
that
the
out
show?
Yes, I think it'd be a great twist on the show. It might not happen as often, but I would still do it for sure.
there. Hey?
How long do you think, if once you were inside an organization, how long do you think it would be like take you to find, like pinpoint what is wrong?
I'm not saying I could do it even. I would say I would just like to be part of trying to make it happen. If you get a room like this together, that's why I love this show, by the way, because ideas just come out, right?
Yeah.
I love watching. You guys get me thinking about things that I probably just wouldn't think about sitting there by myself. And that's why I love this kind of format. And so I would just like to be in the room to troubleshoot and get a team of people together and then try to execute it. That's all. And then learn, adjust, learn, adjust, learn, adjust. And the greatest example in recent history of that, Houston Astros.
Yeah.
That new ownership came on in 2011. It was a pure direct assault on performance, and they
Also cheated.
Yeah, they cheated too.
No, but that came later.
No, that's for me.
And that, no,
I'm
and
always-
I take
always add that one.
and hey, if you listen to my last podcast, Maddie, just for you, this is for you. And I was thinking of you when I said it. The Astros have taken over as the evil empire of baseball from the New York Yankees because of the cheating.
But they were a good team. They were so well built.
It's the worst, maybe one of the outside of the doping scandals.
Yeah,
it's probably one of the worst franchise mistakes in the history of sports.
But it's like the doping where you look at Barry Bonds and go, dude, you would have been great without this stuff.
Totally.
And the Astros, I know, and then the Astros, you sit there like, you didn't need this. You still would have been an unbelievable baseball team, and you wouldn't have this mark on you.
Such a
why?
Yeah,
Why?
Leadership. You said it earlier.
Yeah. I'm so smart.
Nasty chat. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, like, I'm so interested. Like, I would love to get inside those organizations and see where it stops, right? Because there's got to be somebody or a group of people within organizations that are like, no, we're not doing that. And that's where the growth stops.
Yeah.
Is it that?
Sure.
Like, is it?
It happens with the city. You look at city council and all the roadblocks and stuff. It's probably the same thing, right?
It just it hits a ceiling. And that's it.
Yeah. Or, it gets me. Sorry, I'm just.
Keep going.
No.
I've got a great text when you're done.
So it gets me thinking about, watching The Whale and the Wolf, right? So we just talked about Metallica. So we had Phil Toll on the radio show. He's the performance coach that saved Metallica. And so we had him on the show to talk about what went wrong, what did he do? And he said, look, the guys had just lost their way. They were independent guys that weren't working as a team. So Phil Toll comes in, and every member of that band will attribute their success now to that state of rebuilding, that recreation of Metallica. What they are today is largely because of what Phil Toll did in his time with the band. And we talk about bands being organizations. They're no different than a team. There's so many little intricate things, but when you get into these big monsters, that's where you got to think of a guy like Alex Anthopoulos.
Mm-hmm.
He's got it going on, man. I love him. You take leadership. The guy is in the Dodgers, and you look at hockey. We could talk about the teams are successful in every sport. Here's two things you'll probably see. Great ownership, whether they're distant or involved. 2, consistent leadership. Not a lot of turnover, probably.
Yeah.
Consistency in coaching staff, but also consistency in the core players. I'll try not to talk as much.
No, that's fair.
Look at, if you go to the NFL, Patriots, and I know right now not as good, but they've been doing all of that. The Steelers, they've had 3 head coaches. Breck Knoll, Bill Cowher, like in that time, like ownership has been great. And you look at why are the Steelers somehow always just somehow in the playoff hunt or conversation? It's everything you just talked
Consistency.
about.
Do you want to get to the text?
Laurie just in the YouTube chat goes, amazing. Possibly using your job when your team's in a wild card spot with a few weeks to go. Come on. But at what point are Jays like, well, you have to win a playoff series at some point, or there's going to be questions around your GM if they make a wild card spot but lose. Like
last year was disappointing.
Well, there are going to be questions. Okay, how long can this GM stay in that spot if they don't make the playoffs, which is still possible? How do you go back with Ross Atkins? And then that's where the question does come, because they've been around long enough. At what point do you actually get results?
That's exactly. And like playoffs, but like you have to take that next step
at some point.
So
or
else you lose
that
this
point?
core, and then you're starting all over, right? So.
That's why I threw that out there.
All right, we'll go into the inbox. I guess we got to take a break. We're already
then we'll head
for an hour.
We're almost at 10 o'clock. We've done the hour. It's just
I feel
flies
like
by.
This is a great text to go into a break because it kind of sums everything up. It comes in from Calgary Glenn. Krush is looking at me like, what's going on? Well, Calgary Glenn says, whatever Crusher is on, bottle it. I'll buy 2 cases. Love his energy. Boom.
It's the best.
Calgary Glenn, great text.
You always feel great when you have
we got to figure out
Crusher.
that science.
Give me some of that Crusher.
Tom Gazzola, Jeff Krushell, Quinn Phillips, Matt Owanek. You're listening to the EST Hangout on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, or you're watching on YouTube. We'll be back after a very short break.
I think we're going to see some big things from Evander Kane this year.
You think so? Like if he stays healthy, like 40 goals or something?
He's used to Edmonton now. He's solidified, I think, his place in the dressing room. I think there's a comfort factor that takes a little bit of time.
2 guys and a goalie with Gager, Cassian, and Nielsen. Tuesday and Thursdays at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Join Murray McCourt and Curtis Stock for tips and tales from courses around Edmonton and area with the VIP Golf Show, presented by the Tailor Made Performance Center at the Ranch, Sundays at 8:30, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Catch up with friends of EST, Andrew, Mike, and Kayla as they get you in the huddle with the Edmonton Elks on the Turf District. Thursday nights at 8, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get all the latest news and takes on everything Oilers with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola on the Oil Stream. Live at noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join friend of EST, Guy Flaming, for the Pipeline Show, Monday nights at 8 and Saturday at noon, as he has you covered with CHL, CJHL, USHL, NAHL, NCAA, and U Sports, plus the World Juniors, Frozen Four, and NHL Draft on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Lock Shop.
This might be actually my favorite weekend of the year now that I think about it. Masters weekend's always right up there because you're kind of getting into a good period of time. But I got to tell you, this CFL triple header that's planned for Saturday is going to be amazing. I got my Chiefs raising a banner on Thursday night, and then the first full Sunday of NFL action. I mean,
that is a great weekend, buddy. That's a great weekend.
The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Wake up with the Nielsen Show with Dustin Nielsen and Lieutenant Eric. Weekday mornings 6 to 9 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Elks Call is the newest Edmonton Elks podcast located in Edmonton, discussing everything Elks. Join friends of EST, Scout and Catherine, Friday nights at 8 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tom Gazzola and Sean Bell take you on a hot lap around the NHL with Hello Hockey, Saturday mornings at noon, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Oil Stream.
Last summer on the Oil Stream, you and I discussed the possibility of Gagné coming back here on a PTO. He signed with Winnipeg and got an actual contract.
Anytime you can have Sam Gagné involved in your organization in any way, it's a major positive for you.
They love him.
The Oil Stream with Nielsen and Gazzola. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk.
Return here on the EST Hangout. Quinn, Phillips, Jeff Krushell, Tom Gazzola, as well as you. 780-218-9999. Volume's low. I gotta quickly fix that. Fix the volume, Matthew. There we go. We're back. Thank you. Fix that. I don't know. It keeps defaulting to like having a no volume on this. I don't know why. But no one cares about that. Should we get into Mike Babcock's situation in Columbus Blue Jackets?
Yes.
Where do the Blue Jackets? Where do the Blue Jackets go from here? How do you proceed from this?
They continue to just take a nosedive into bad organizations.
Okay. Good point. But are they nosediving when they've already and consistently for 25 years been a bad organization? They're just status quo. They've had some little.
It was that one little bump, I would say.
Little bumps here and there, but they've just been perpetually inept.
But at least they didn't draft Puljujärvi. We've discussed this.
Nailed it. And scene.
Okay. And
moving on. No.
Here's what I'm surprised by. Like, you knew this is who Mike Babcock was. I'm just surprised that they'd make this move this quickly. I'm not saying that it's the wrong move, but you were willing to make this move on him this quickly. After everything you knew about him. Why did you this goes back to them? Why did you hire him in the first place? If you're willing to dump him like that and not stand behind him. And again, I'm not saying that what he did was right or anything like that. He should lose his job. But this goes back to then, why did you hire him in the first place? Who thinks at that time that this is a good thing? Where in the end, ultimately, the first little misstep he makes, which was a big one, you're saying gone.
Well, prior to the EST hangout this morning while Crusher and Quinn and I were sitting in the green room, which is now a lovely space thanks to Jay Milne and Vaughn's Furniture. I said, let's take a look at the Jackets head coaching list. It isn't great.
He is top 10. Mike Babcock, by the way.
What?
He's top 10 coach in Columbus Blue Jackets history.
Yeah, he is, because they've only had 10. Two of them haven't even coached a game. In Pascal Vincent and Mike Babcock. But
no, he's ahead of one guy.
Who?
I can't remember who it was. I saw it yesterday. He coached 5 games. He had 4 losses in a row.
Gary Agnew.
Yeah, he's ahead of that one. I put some top 10 in Columbus Blue Jackets history.
So Dave King, who is a great coach for Hockey Canada, great international reputation, obviously spent some time in the NHL. He was their first coach from 2000 to 2003. Doug McLean took over for 1 year, 03-04. Gerard Gallant, one of his many stops as a head coach in the NHL was 04-06. Gary Agnew, who's aforementioned. Ken Hitchcock was probably their best coach in their early history from 06 to 2010. Then they had Claude Noel for 24 games, Scott Arniel from 2010 to 2012, Todd Richards from 2012 to 2015. Tortorella, which I thought was a terrible hire, is their best coach statistically. Longest tenure, 447 games, 227, 166, and 54 record. That's good for a 568 winning percentage. That's the best all time in Blue Jackets history. Then you had Brad Larson from 21 to 23, Mike Babcock for 2 months, and now Pascal Vincent. Like this is I'm gonna say it. This is a crap list. Hitchcock, legit. Dave King wasn't really he was a head coach, but he never really was a NHL head coach through and through. Gerard Gallant has been great, although he doesn't last more than a couple of years in whatever city he goes to. Arniel and Richards, and then Brad Larson kind of got thrown into a crap situation, and then they brought in Babcock. So
obviously they were going for the big splash there. Like they wanted the big name, they
could have done
the guy
so much
who's
better.
showing. Well,
but you're right.
And I mean, I talk about this all the time, and like Manny Viveros, I was golfing with him one time, as former assistant coach of the Oilers. And he just said, he's like, the NHL is ridiculous. Like you don't get chances. Like they just recycle guys. And then you go and recycle a guy who is abusive, and I go back and forth because I'm tormented. I understand people deserve second chances. If I made a mistake, I would hope that somebody, so I get that. I get that side of the argument, but just considering the culture in hockey, what are you doing? Why are you giving this guy a second chance?
Well, and that shines the light on Jarmo Kekalainen and John Davidson, and them giving people with crap characters or that are crappy characters, bad personalities, whatever, and have these reputations. I'm obviously looking at Tortorella as the other guy in this light, and you go, why do you guys keep bringing in these old school coaches that ultimately flame out and people don't like, when you could bring in a new fresh perspective from these younger coaches who put their time in the minors or the junior ranks, and that the younger players appreciate and can see eye to eye with?
Give Todd Nelson a chance.
Yeah. Todd Nelson resonates with every one of his players. He's a player's coach and he gets results. He's won multiple Calder Cups in the AHL. He inherited a crap team here in Edmonton in a bad situation.
He was never that was just like a lose-lose for him.
Yeah.
There was never a winning situation there for him. So
now, but what happens with this Blue Jackets locker room? Because there's clearly an issue now between younger players and the veterans, because Boone Jenner has a statement where he says, it was all good. Nothing's wrong. And you got young people who are going to Biz Nasty initially going, no. And credit to Biz Nasty. Look, I didn't believe it at first. I was one of those people who's like, spitting chicklets.
Mm-hmm.
He was right. Got it right.
He did.
Well done on them on that part.
I'll say this really quickly on that. I don't think that's going to be that big of an issue because the leadership group, Boone Jenner, Johnny Gaudreau, who's one of the older players and better players on that team, obviously. Zach Werenski's name came up. I really don't think that those guys wanted Mike Babcock either. This is just me, my opinion. I think when they found out that Babcock was coming in, they probably rolled their eyes and like, oh, fine, whatever. Like, this sucks. But and I think what they did last week at the NHL media junket in Vegas, and then talking to, releasing that statement, whatever, I think as the leaders, they were saying the right thing because that's what you do as a leader. But I really do feel like my hunch my hunch and mine alone, and I'm sure people feel the same way, is they didn't really want Babcock there either.
Okay, but flip side, as a leader, don't you first check in with your teammates to see where everyone stands, as
do a
opposed
pulse
to
check.
doing what's
You'd hope
best
so.
for coaching or management? Like, and
You
that
would
if they're standing there, that to me is they want to make sure we're saying the right things for the organization, not for the locker room. And that's
But
where I'll
think
go
of
a
the
little.
consequence. Like you brought in this guy, he's only been on the job for a couple months. You signed him for $4 million per year for 2 years,
The
and
consequences
you're one
is
of
he
the
gets
leaders
fired,
tied into the team.
which is
But
ultimately what
did
happened.
we think he was getting or being let go or was resigning yesterday? I think we all figured he was staying on, right?
Yeah.
But if the leaders come out at the start and say, no, this guy did something that is just awkward, it lends a credence to him then potentially being fired. And that's where I'm just surprised that there wasn't they immediately from the outside looking in, it looks like the leadership of the players took management side before checking in with the rest of the team.
Had they done that, I'll say this, and then I want to know what you guys think. Had those leaders done that and came out and said, yeah, we think this was weird, we didn't like it, Babcock stayed on as coach.
Yeah.
And those guys said that.
Yeah.
He would sewer those guys so fast that it would whatever toxicity was there that was emanating,
but that's called
would
being a
be
leader.
multiplied tenfold if that situation happened. That's just what I think.
No, but that's the problem. And that's the problem with guys like Mike Babcock is that they look for revenge, which is
Yeah.
insane. You should be looking and you say, okay, those leadership guys, those leaders said that this wasn't good. I need to look inside and see how I can improve. But his ego is so big that yes, you're right. He would have just taken it out on them. And that is the problem.
Yes.
And that is why those guys couldn't say anything. I'm sure they felt like they couldn't say anything. And again, this just goes to I just wish that there just could be more outspoken people in the NHL to try to help this culture move along right now, because that I think is what needed. I just think that it would have just looked so much better had Johnny Gaudreau not underplayed it, and you know what I mean? What a difference it would make.
Yeah.
But
actually,
that's me. It's you don't even have to say something. You could just not say something. For Boone Jenner to have a statement in that release, just say, I don't want to give a statement.
He's a good team guy. He's
well,
the captain.
So he's good for the team, for the organization, not for the players.
He was in a tight
and that's
spot.
the thing. It's sometimes being a leader is hard. Sometimes you have to make difficult decisions. And they went for the easy decision on this one, not the difficult one.
And that's
really where I wonder what happens with the players and now Boone Jenner and Gaudreau.
I think
so. A team release, you're asking a guy to provide a statement that you're basically going to filter.
Yeah.
To make sure that your organization doesn't look bad. That's just a lose-lose right there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a disconnect in a locker room, Jeff, between players?
No, not like this. Not like this. I've seen players go off the rails.
Yeah.
Yeah, I certainly have. And you got to play peacekeeper sometimes. Being a coach on the team, you kind of have to smooth those waters. It's a lot like family, though. If the organization's right or if the people inside the room are right, it's like family. Sometimes tough, hard discussions, right? But again, I got to think that there is a massive leadership problem here. I mean, because this doesn't happen. When does this happen? Well, when Steinbrenner owns a team and fires you before the season at a press conference because he doesn't like what you said. So I think maybe the firing was the team being forced into from the higher levels being forced into a situation where they had to act one way or the other. Because I'm with you. Had this carried on, this would have been an ugly scene, I think.
Yeah. And everything, we talked about it on Hello Hockey Saturdays at 10 a.m. right here on EST. If after everything that happened last week, what happens now, could Babcock have stayed on? We said any little thing would blow up and become a big thing.
Yeah.
And that would dog him in his entire tenure as Blue Jackets head coach, unless they became an excellent powerhouse team in the Eastern Conference, which they don't really have the roster to do. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So it just I think at some point you got to look at the GM and president of the team and go, what are you guys doing? And
this is before the season even starts. This isn't January where guys are tired and banged up and this is insanity.
This is
I
when you're
can't
supposed to be
even
excited.
Yeah. They're supposed to be happy to be together and going to golf tournaments together and having a great time.
Yeah.
Not either defending an abusive coach or having to deal with that, period.
IMAC text 780-218-9999. Boys and girl, I think because Columbus is kind of a laughingstock team, that ownership and management chose a Nails coach to look more valid. Just a random thought. That's from IMAC.
Didn't they try that with Tortorella?
Yeah, and that's why I said that it has to. Now we got to shine the light on Jarmo Kekalainen and his mentality when it comes to and strategy when it comes to picking coaches, because these aren't like guys that you look at and go, you know what, he's easy to work with. You know what, he's good with young players, because Tortorella is a hard guy to deal with. I know to the media people laugh at it, but that's kind of a microcosm of how he is. And I know there's some players that loved him and said that he's a great guy, talks about his dogs and his family. But why do people sour on him after a certain amount of time? And why is he bouncing from job to job lately? Like, 'cause he's from a different generation. Same with Babcock.
This one to me goes right up to the top of ownership of Columbus now.
They're
We're already
apparently
having
very
that,
hands off in Columbus.
but you approved this.
Yeah.
To sit there and say, like, because you've had all these issues, somebody ultimately has to prove Babcock, and that goes right to the very top. That you can't even be ownership in this case and be like, yeah, well, what are you guys doing? This is why did you approve it even in this straight up?
Yeah.
Why did you allow John Davidson and Kekalainen to do this?
So they trust them too much.
And that's on you. And that's now where it's got to change, because you're putting power into people who clearly don't know what they're doing with this franchise.
Yeah. Hey, so how do you guys evaluate their talent? Let's just look at the roster. So
everyone thought they were going to have a good year last year. And
that's
they
what
just
I thought too.
Bad.
Yeah. Is that leadership there, coaching or whatever? So here's the thing. Is this one of our teams to watch this NHL? I got 2 spots to fill yet in my NHL watch list.
I like how you do this, by the way.
How many teams do you usually put on this watch list?
It depends. It can vary.
Okay.
It depends what's happening in the league right now. The Oilers, of course, were a big one with the whole changeover. They've been on sort of the watch roster for the last 4 or 5 years. But this could be, with this firing, this could be a huge team to watch.
It feels like it could go one of 2 ways.
Exactly.
It can stay spectacularly bad. There's issues in the locker room. Leadership rookies are fighting. It's not good. Or this galvanizes the team.
Exactly.
Gets them all on. The new coach comes in and says, the bad guy is gone. Let's do this together. Blue Jacket talkie, cannon, fire it off. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go. And they all come together. And also we're sitting there going, the Blue Jackets are 10-0 to start this season.
Yeah.
What happens?
That's what I would hope for. I really would. I'm not just as a sport.
But we've seen enough sports to know that these things could really change a franchise's direction, both good or bad.
If they handle this right, there's a massive opportunity here right now. Again, I don't know what it's like in the.
They already not handled it right, though.
And then maybe that's exactly. You're right.
I think they handled it right.
Letting him go.
Oh, I thought I think just it took that long to let him go.
Oh,
to me, to do the statement and then find out later, like their big thing that's coming out is that apparently there was a meeting off team facilities where Mike Babcock took a guy's phone and looked at it for a few minutes, as if this was a new revelation. It was like, well, that's what Biz Nasty said first, but you refuted it. So clearly you didn't do a good enough investigation right off the bat. And that's where, to me, they mishandled this. They should have just done a better investigation or not had that statement. They shouldn't have had that statement right off the bat.
Yeah. Can they turn it around? And they're my team. They're on the list.
Great. Well, here's your roster for this team that you're going to be watching and on the list. Liam Foudy, Boone Jenner, Kent Johnson, Sean Corrali, Jack Roslovic, Johnny Gaudreau, Kirill Marchenko, who is actually he's going to be good, I think. Eric Robinson, Emil Bemstrom, Yegor Chinnikov, Trey Fix-Wolansky, former Oil King, Patrick Laine, Matthew Olivier, and then you've got on defense Nick Blankenberg, Adam Boqvist, Eric Goodbranson, Andrew Peak, Ivan Provorov, Damon Severson, in goal, Elvis Merzlikins, and then Michael Hutchinson or John Gillies will be the backup. So that's not a very sexy roster. It does have some really high-end guys smattered throughout, but I don't think that these are going to be world beaters this year with that roster.
Would this be a organizational team to follow for the next 2 or 3 years to see if they can actually get some good leadership in, start maybe making some strategic trades, because they're obviously not going to be in it. So again, I don't know, but this is what I love about sport, though. It's the real reality television, man.
Yeah.
I also didn't mention Adam Fantilli, who was drafted this past year. That might make the team. Probably will.
Zach Werenski.
And Werenski, yes.
Werenski.
I guess it comes down to how long's Kekalainen get?
He's been there for like 10 years.
I know, but so what? If you're the ownership, what are you like? Are you demanding from him right now? Is it playoffs this year? Is it playoffs in 3 years? Is it playoffs in 5 years? Like, because that changes the whole conversation. Because we're sitting here saying like they haven't won anything. They've now have this mess. He's got to go, which means you like do that now. You can't trust him to make any sort of changes when it comes to this roster moving forward. This is a very like because you've mentioned some good younger players there.
Sure.
This is a moment where this could be the start of something pretty nice for them. But you have to do it right over the next couple of years. Are you trusting Kekalainen to do that?
Well, and this is funny. This goes back to your conversation of just like having that stable leadership. But it's like, so I think they obviously probably tried to do that clearly if he's been there for 10 years. But yeah,
Maybe
it's
time.
not working.
Right.
Obviously.
Yeah. And that's why I said you got to look at management team. Time to move on, shake that up, and get fresh opinions and voices in there, and newer ones probably that adapted newer methods in the game.
Yeah.
And maybe that could help this team turn over a new leaf.
Maybe we need to ask Guy Fleming to do a show on upcoming coaches. See, he covers the upcoming players so well, that, you know, on the pipeline. We need a coaching pipeline. I mean,
I'll just the coaching GM.
Yeah,
I think
right.
both.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
I'm trying to think of who
Like,
the
you just
next
go in,
GMs would be.
armed with like, why are you hiring this guy when there's this, right?
Yeah,
Like we can be
right.
involved in the argument more.
Yeah.
You know,
Like there is such great, talented young coaches, you're right, that just never get the opportunity. Do they need to be an assistant coach for a while in the NHL to get a feel for it? Sometimes, probably right.
Yeah.
Same with the GM. Does a GM need to be an assistant GM somewhere? Maybe just to get an ebb and flow and form his own opinions. It'd be great to have a pipeline on those guys and have a roster of top upcoming executives and coaches. And then we could call a spade when a team makes a move like this.
Yeah.
We got these 5 coaches who are ready for the NHL, and you're hiring this guy again? Come on.
Yep. That's exactly the sentiment. I think a lot of people thought that when Babcock was hired.
Yeah.
Seriously.
yeah, that's all I think when any of those guys like just get recycled again.
Yeah.
So it was actually funny. So just going back to the Oilers, when they brought Jay in, I actually texted Manny and was like, this feels like a death trap. Like it's a bit of a graveyard here.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I
not
said
an
the
easy
same.
place to come in and coach. And Manny said, you have to take your chance. When is he going to get this chance again? You don't know, right? And I was just like, that was so eye-opening to me. I was like, yeah, like you don't know, you're not going into a great situation where they've had so many different coaches, but you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only 32 jobs.
Right.
It's like the Cleveland Browns could always find another head coach because there's going to be the guy that goes, well, at least it's an NFL job. I get a shot at being a head coach. But I'm trying to think who the top coaching candidates would be, or GM candidates right now would be moving forward. I just can't think of any off the top of my head.
Was kind of one.
But
He still might be.
But I think we're all looking at, we know where he's going eventually.
Yeah, well, the Ottawa thing, yeah, we're waiting for that.
But who would be the other one that you'd try to be circling for teams like, if we're looking to next year, or even this year, like the coaching thing, sometimes is there that coach that's out there for the first coach that gets fired? Well, we have it this year, but the second coach to be fired, who's the next man up type thing?
That's a good point.
And I can't think of those right off the top of
Oh,
my
it would
head.
be a great list, man, to have a real good scouting list on potential coaches, potential GMs. I'd love that in every sport. Let's do that. We have the men. We'll get the guys behind the scenes to start.
We could do whatever we
Whatever
want.
you want.
All the
Whatever we want.
opinions out there. Yeah.
That would be a great project, though.
I agree. And even European coaches too. Like
Yeah,
I
oh,
would
for sure. It's
know
global.
many
Like,
at all. Yeah.
Sweden's got some great coaches. Finland's got
They
some
do.
great coaches. Maybe, I don't know, would you be able to go into the, maybe, I don't know enough about that.
Go where?
Would you be able to come from like the Finnish national team and step onto an NHL ice? It's a bit,
It'd
The
be tough.
closest thing to that was like Ralph Kruger recently.
Mhm.
That didn't work
No.
twice. Not the situation here was messed up, but yeah.
Yeah, you got passes for Edmonton
and then I
for
think
some of those guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ivan Holinka was kind of one, but he had played in the NHL, and I think he was an assistant coach in Pittsburgh before they gave him the head coaching job. Trying to think of any
It's
others.
like almost like North Americans don't want outsiders coming in.
Yeah.
David Blatt with the Cleveland Cavaliers came in after coaching. Was he in Israel? I can't remember where he was from. Came and took over Cleveland. He lasted a year and a half or so, something like that. But it's just like right off the bat when he was hired, there was a lot of this guy. Like, we know best. Why are you hiring somewhere else? And that's where I think like in hockey a little bit.
That
It'd be
exists.
like,
Absolutely.
especially in Canada, looking at any of the 32 teams, even though they're not all in Canada, we'd be going, why aren't you hiring one of us? We know this game. Why are we hiring someone from Sweden? Like,
okay, so I'm going to put you guys all in the president GM seats right now.
Or Jeff Jackson?
You're running, right. You're running an organization. I don't care what sport.
Okay.
Wouldn't you guys, in the back of your mind somewhere, have a coaching development pipeline? Like, wouldn't you do that?
In theory, yes.
But isn't that your minor system in the sense?
Yeah.
Like you have, like, let's use baseball. Wouldn't you want one of your managers of AAA or something
Yes.
to be
That's what I would
be
want.
your next manager,
I would
or
want-
them on your staff currently?
Yeah.
Now, if you're a manager, would you want to work for an organization that has the next in line
Yeah, it's
identified?
if you're mentoring, I think it would be great succession. I mean, then you have a real manager. A real manager.
The
You
real
got a
leader,
real
that
leader.
ego doesn't get in the way.
That's not
Good point.
scared about his job. If you got a guy who's not scared about his job, can you think how powerful that is?
Can I give credit to Mike Babcock on something with
Sure,
that, though?
yeah.
And I know this sounds weird. I remember having him on 1260 years ago, and he talked about how he loved having his assistant coaches lead for head coaching jobs because, one, it pushed them to keep trying to get better, but two, then it gave him new voices because he had to replace them on his staff.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like that flaw. I do like, if you're not scared as a top coach of the next, you be confident that I'm not losing my job because I'm that great. But you also think he would keep bringing in new voices to help push you. And
Yeah.
But clearly, Mike Babcock stopped listening to those people a long time
And
ago.
Tom, you're running a team. And not only are you producing great players to go on and be traded to bolster your major league or professional roster,
Sure.
you're developing young executives who are all over the league now. You're developing young coaches who are all over the league now. That's the Harvard I want to go to as an executive, a coach, or a player. I want to be that organization.
Immediately when you bring that up, Krush, that thought, that idea, and if you're that person who has these people that you work with under you who blossom into equally as good, if not better, coaches, GMs, whatever, and that gets recognized among your peers. So if you happen to lose that particular job because the time has come, the time there has run its course, because of your reputation, what you've built, and what you can do, you're going to get another job.
Amen.
Easily.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, the
Easily.
NHL shows that a lot, but
Clearly.
But that said, and like, what I was just thinking as well is it shows your dedication to an organization. If you are mentoring the head coach or the manager of AAA, it shows that you care about the organization and you care about because it isn't just all about the players. It's a lot about the players, but that's your dedication to the organization. And I think that would be so special too. And again, that would be very broadly recognized as well.
Yeah. I love it. So in my time with Major League Baseball, so I've been working for I went from the Blue Jays and we stepped down from the Blue Jays because of family reasons. My dad had a heart attack. We had our third baby coming. So it was just a real tough life decision. The Jays were great. I consulted with them and helped them out. And I still do to this very day. But when I stepped in with Major League Baseball, it was a super cool scene, man, because it was the first time I really got exposed to international sport. They kind of brought me on to oversee player development globally. It got too crazy. I was traveling so much, I might as well have stayed with the team. So I went to them and said, guys, can I get a budget to hire young strength coaches? Because the guys in the offseason, the minor league guys in the offseason, they're, working part-time or they're finding other jobs. And so they said, okay, well, what does it look like? I said, let's hire guys, bring them over for 6 weeks before Christmas, send them home for Christmas, bring them back for 6 weeks after the holidays, and then send them straight to spring training.
Oh.
They gave me a budget. And so I started hiring these young, and I was pretty well connected in baseball. So I just took references, guys. So we had these great young coaches who some of them had never traveled before. And we threw them into the fire. So we would meet in like Prague and I'd have like a 3-day summit with them and explain to them their assignment. You're going to France, you're going to Italy, you're going to Germany, you're going to Austria, you're going to the Netherlands. Here's the players, here's how the layout. So it was a pretty cool thing, right? Every one of those guys, 2 of them are strength guys in the NBA now.
Wow.
3 of them are major league strength coaches. 2 of them are minor league coordinators, and one of them's in the front office now. There's great young pros who just, I just don't see why that doesn't happen more in other parts of sport and organization.
Insecurity?
Maybe.
Because there's some that are so insecure that they bottleneck everything on purpose to protect themselves. Maybe it's
Well, like in
natural
football,
instinct.
everyone's either power hungry or just insane.
Yeah.
Or a combination of both.
Yeah.
Very
Like
true.
the how many times have we heard the story of the NFL coach getting in a fight with their NFL GM because they want personnel decisions, and then someone gets bumped out, and it's
Yeah.
it's
Like,
it's all of that.
I'm so proud of you guys for what you're doing here. And not that I'm even remotely responsible, but seeing you guys come from over there to do this, like I'm proud as hell to see you guys. Wouldn't you be proud of your young executives going off to run another team?
Yes.
Or your young coaches going on to get an NHL team? Yeah, man.
Wouldn't that fuel more competitiveness in you too? It's like, okay, so now like he's gone, we got to make sure we keep our level. I don't know. I feel like it's a win-win, but there's just a lot of pardon?
Want to finish?
No,
That's
there's
my
just. I mean, again, yeah, it just goes back to egos and stuff like that. Unfortunately,
Well, I also think it would attract more young people too, because if you're the organization that keeps sending people everywhere else, they're like, I got to go work there because I'm going to get
I
my
can
next
have
job from them.
any job
Yeah,
I want after that.
they
Yeah.
keep pushing people out there. How do I get there?
It's no different than a college player trying to choose his college, right?
Yeah.
Those guys create NFL players.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys create NBA players. Got to go there.
Right.
Anyway,
ego.
Are the Oilers in a good spot executive wise? Like it seems like
They're in an interesting spot.
Well, we're looking at they're going to get a new GM next year.
Yeah.
We all kind of know that. But they have options in house. Like there are a couple, aren't there?
Yeah. I guess there are some. I mean, some. I don't want to use names because there's.
But we could all look at like who's the list of people there, and some people would say, "Could Keith Gretzky be the guy that
he doesn't
could take
want?"
over?
I can't speak for him. You know, I'm not going to speak for him.
But are they in a like? I don't think we would have said that 10 years ago.
True.
We would have always said it when there was coaching GM changes, you got to go outside.
Yes.
But it seems like maybe there's a couple potential in-house. So there was Steve Stais for a period of time as well.
Tyler Wright was one until they made it abundantly clear that Ken Holland, this is last year. Jeff Jackson takes over as CEO. Paul Coffey's playing a bigger role in all of this. So they probably look externally, but there are a few people internally that they will likely talk to. Where that goes or how they see that playing out.
Brad Holland's the other name I'd throw out there.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, so they'll probably talk to a few of those names. Where that goes, I don't know. It's kind of precarious too because the team's so good. They have two of the best players in the world. They're ushering out their GM, who's a Hall of Famer, and they're already in the move to get Tyler Wright out. Was indicative of the shift in mentality and implementing a new approach and all of that. So it's kind of, even though this is a team that's kind of set in its contender window, there's some movement, and there's some flux. So it's interesting.
But what's great about it, at least from my perspective, looking at it, is it's on the fly. It's not.
It is on the fly.
Well, and that's kind of how the best organizations go, is that you can make these changes and make that shift, but it's not impacting what's happening on the ice because you're doing it seamlessly.
If you look at the real successful teams and organizations, even in business, man, they make changes when they're at the top. Make strategic changes when you're at the top, and you can keep on going. It's when teams wait for that curve to drop off the face of the earth, and then you're in trouble. You're digging yourself out of a hole again. They're in a really, really good place, I think.
Yeah, which is interesting because all we've been talking about for the last 2 decades was how they're always fighting an uphill battle and in such a bad place. And it's weird to talk about them coming from a positive light.
Fun to watch.
Don't know how to do it.
It's my hands.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun season, you'd have to think.
Training camp starts on Wednesday.
It does?
Yeah. It'll be good. Did you watch any of has anybody watched the Young Stars Classic?
It's funny. I was like, as I knew I was coming here today, I was like, I really hope this doesn't come up because I haven't watched a lot.
I watched some highlights yesterday.
Do you have any takeaways?
Yeah,
Matvei Petrov looks good.
Sir.
I'm really liking Matvei Petrov.
We had it on the oil stream last Friday. We had a couple people in the nasty chat saying they were intrigued by him.
Yeah, and they should be because he's big, he's skilled, he's one of the better guys on the Oilers at this rookie camp, which he should be. I thought Bourgault had some nice plays. And then who's the other? There's a couple guys that actually put up some numbers that look good. A lot of people were watching Warner, who's another interesting prospect. Bo Akey has looked good, the guy that they drafted in the second round this past year. But again, this is coming off of highlights. I'm not watching the full 2-3 hours. There's other things that are going on that kind of take precedence right now. But yeah, it's not what we used to. It's not the same Young Stars Classic that we used to watch when it was Hall, Everly.
Yeah.
Well, and there was so
David
much
even.
intrigue
David.
because it was you were genuinely also like who can make this team. Like there's no room for these guys right
No,
now, right?
no,
So it's like
no,
And
none.
nor should there be.
yeah, nor should there be. But there was so many years where it was like, oh, some of these guys could make the team, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just they weren't very good.
And that
So
it's not happening now, which is
yeah,
excellent. So
yeah,
Number one question for this team heading into this season for each of you.
goaltending.
great question.
I think so.
Defensive structure. Is it going to be good? Will they execute? And that falls under goaltending will be a huge part of that.
Yeah.
I just
What
don't
about
care
you?
about
Yeah.
the 82 games. Just get me to play. That to me, this regular season does not. The Oilers are in that stage of existence now, where just get to the playoffs.
Let's just get to the playoffs.
It doesn't
yeah.
matter. Like even I still go like I don't care how they play in the regular season. Stuart Skinner could look unbelievable in the regular season. I want to see him do it in the playoffs.
Right.
Jack Campbell could look awesome this year too. Okay, cool. Is that playoffs? No. Let's see it in the playoffs. I want to see everything in playoffs because really this regular season we shouldn't be talking about playoffs. Like, are they or aren't they
We
going to
should
make
be
it?
talking about them winning the division.
We're
or,
talking about
yeah,
division.
yeah.
We're talking about the conference. Like you hope that this team would be in a spot where they didn't have their December, January bump where they're having to fight in March and April. That they're just consistently good all year. And I want to say rest guys late, but not having to rely on the McDavid and the Draisaitl in April to just finish it off and get you in the playoffs. Just staying healthy, but getting to the playoffs and then see, okay, conference finals. There's the minimum for me. You got at the very least get conference finals. And to me, that's even going 6 games at minimum. So, like, I don't care
Win a
about the
game in the
regular season that much because it shouldn't matter for this team at all. Look, I understand everyone enjoys watching hockey. Enjoy it. I'm not going to take that away. But to me, it's just, okay, cool. This is an 82 game cycle to get us to what we need to care about for this team this year.
Yeah. I want to talk about Jack Campbell because goalies are just such interesting people. He's coming back with a bit of flow. Like,
oh, yeah?
Doesn't he have long hair right now?
Who, Jack Campbell or
Yeah.
Stuart Skinner?
Campbell.
Jack Campbell.
Yeah, they both kind of have longer
Well,
hair.
but so like goalies are so interesting and like, you know, I'm just intrigued to see, like, I actually think that he could be a lot better this year. I think that a lot of pressure is off this year. I hope he had a really good summer of just meditating.
Did he watch or listen to Dolphins Mate? Yes. I hear that's good for you in the healing process.
The healing, like, you know, the mental growth that does. No, I don't know. I'm pretty hopeful. Like I don't know. I don't
think he could be as bad as he was.
Well, no, I hope not. But I'm I don't know. I'm finding myself being very excited to see him, and I'm very intrigued. And I really, really hope that I'm correct. That you know he's mentally going to be able to turn things around, which will obviously change his performance on the ice.
Yeah. Yeah. What was he? 888 or 887 save percentage. That was stanky.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Right. You'd have to think he could get that. Like, even if it's 905, 910.
Great.
What does that bring the Oilers in terms of extra wins?
Not having to score 7.
Right. And then, like, Skinner had a good year last year. Really great regular season.
883 in the playoffs.
But the regular season, it's not a number. It wasn't like 930 that we're going, like, can you replicate that? What he did last year, he could absolutely do again this year. It's not a number that we're going to be like, that was just outrageous. Like, he could be able to do the same thing. If Jack Campbell comes up, like, again, he should. And then you have Ekholm on the blue line.
A full season with him. I'm excited
How
about
much
that
does
too.
how much does Ekholm bring, like, beyond just the player? Like, how much does he elevate the rest of this team?
A lot. The ripple effect there is huge. And I think that's something that people are excited about, and rightly so. Let's see if it does take hold with this group. I think it probably will. In theory, it should. Yeah, I know your strength of performance, but like the performance element, and you dip into the mindset of athletes and all of that when it comes to performance. With the goalies specifically, you got a young guy who had confidence and then struggled in the postseason. Then you had a veteran guy who struggled on the mental side of things to the point where he called his own game pathetic. And then he actually looked okay in the playoffs. I don't think he was as good as people thought he might be and didn't really deserve a start, even though Stuart Skinner wasn't playing particularly well, especially in that second round series. how do you look at the mindset of the goalies, and then having a veteran presence of a Matthias Ekholm that can help young defensemen out? And I don't know, like as an athlete, I always looked at the leaders, and it made me feel good looking down the bench, being like, well, that guy's like a few years older than me. He knows how to handle these situations. I'm good. I can just follow him, type of thing.
Yeah, if you have those guys on your roster, that's all powerful. You can't force leadership on players, though, right? I've seen it. I've seen it actually happen, and it fails every single time. The guy has to be a leader, but there's many, many different ways to lead. You don't have to be vocal in the face. You don't have to, arm over the shoulder, have a face to face, though that stuff can be incredibly effective. So I don't know what kind of leader a guy like Ekholm might be, but that being said, that's valuable to have in our programs. Okay, we've just, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. We've just come up with a system. It's quite simple. When we are helping an athlete, doesn't matter whether he's a 10-year veteran of a professional sport or whether he's a young kid getting into a high performance pipeline, high performance pathway. We have 5 priorities for development. And the first one, everything has to revolve around rest, recovery, and sleep. It is the biggest mistake going on in sport from top to bottom nowadays, especially. We don't put that as a priority. We try to do more work, and the work has to be revolved around rest. Sleep's the number one priority. Nutrition, hydration is second, and it's second. Make no mistake. Posture, range of motion, making sure this thing's functional for what the athletes have to do, critically important for injury prevention and performance. 3, movement, and goalies are such a special position to train for. Like they are. There's so many things you can do. What we know about quiet eye and training vision now. And then our 5th priority, which is the latest one, is called the brain game, Tom. And it's our rover. Listen, if an athlete has anxiety or stress, he's not sleeping well. He's probably not thinking well. He's not training well, not learning well, right? Not recovering well. So all of a sudden that brain game becomes priority number 1. So for an organization, and I think the Oilers are there, they've got such a great crew there. Like, listen, the behind the scenes, what's going on inside that room with strength and conditioning, the medical side, there is some of the best people in the business. They've got some cool things going on this year, but addressing and attacking that mental side first and foremost is a priority in organizational performance. That's how we handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the goalies, though, listen, man, vision. Like, and I just don't see it happening that much anywhere. What we can do now in terms of brain, we can map your brain. We can monitor your brain. We can train your brain real time. Things we have never ever been able to do in the history of sport, in the history of mankind. We can do it now because of technology. It's not happening yet at the highest level. So we're at a very interesting time in sport. One of my profs from University of Calgary, Joan Vickers, actually discovered this thing called the quiet eye, right? And it is just a point that she discovered all high performers from golf. It's huge. You want to improve your golf game? Spend an afternoon with me on the putting green. I promise you, the gaze patterns of professional golfers, the top putters in professional golf are different from the average PGA putters, right? We know the best free throw, but the best goalies have this moment where their eyes are focused, their attention is focused, and at a certain point, it can massively influence their save percentages. We can teach movement. We can teach all this. We can get strong, faster, higher, stronger. Easy. The brain game is the most exciting area of human performance right now. So I'm hoping they're attacking that. But you're right. Any doubt there? We don't arm our athletes. We get them in the weight room. We get them strong. We get them fast. We get them explosive, but we don't arm them with the tools for a mental performance. It's starting to happen more and more now. So I'm hoping that might be a huge tool in the toolbox of NHL teams, especially the Oilers.
Well, and you know what's interesting when you talk about this? So when Connor McDavid first started, I did a story at the U of A and I talked to the strength and conditioning coaches who actually did their testing. And they were like, obviously, he's incredibly fit. But where those players, like where Sidney Crosby, where Connor McDavid are different, is that, and I just found this so fascinating and I loved it so much, is that they have the ability to see the tiniest bit of improvement and then they build on that. Like they get 1% better every single day. And and that is why they get to the place that they are, is because they can see the smallest detail getting better and they improve on that and they grow on that.
Environment is so important, right? And this is where I think organizations, when you guys take over your teams and become GMs and presidents, that environment can change everything. And I'm talking individual team performance. So Connor McDavid, we see what's his specialty. Like, I mean, if he has a special trait, it's his speed, right? I would love to go back or sit with him or talk with his dad or his coaches and just see, when did that speed come in? Listen, he perceives the game differently. There's no doubt, because he has to, because he moves faster than anybody in the game. So the way I perceive the game and the way Connor perceives the game are totally different, right? Because I can skate a little bit. You guys get what I'm saying, right?
Yes,
Even
of
at the
course.
NHL, even at the NHL level, like, he actually perceives. That's why he does things we've never seen before.
And that's why great players also just don't make great coaches.
Maybe you're right.
Because I think because they see it and it comes so natural to them. And
should you do this?
Like, it's, well, how are you not seeing this type of thing? And that's where I think like guys like Craig McDavish, I'll use, was a great coach.
Yeah.
Because he had to work a lot harder to get to that same level, if you will, even though they're a little higher than that. And and then they could relate better to, I think, everyone else and how they got there.
Sure.
Point.
How does Connor teach the rest of his teammates that little 1%?
Yeah.
You know,
It's
like, how
well,
do you
just
show
sit
everyone?
home and then do this, and you'll see that
Yeah.
this gets a little bit better, and then you're in the right. It's like, no, but I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Those types of players in that echelon, I feel like if you watch tape with them or you see certain things, they'll point out a few details that you wouldn't even have noticed. And did you see this? Did you see the angle of this? The way he was holding, where his eyes were, and you'd be like, no, I didn't catch those details. Where are you seeing this? That's what puts them above. And then you get that disconnect when they try to teach their players if they become coaches. There's that gap because they're not on the same page. I think that's what you're trying to articulate.
Yeah.
Manny, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally.
So much fun to watch. It really is.
Crush Performance, where can people hear your show and learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so we've got a cool thing going on now. So after post CSN, you can go to our website, crushperformance.com, jeffkrushell.com. Our podcast is there. And we're 16 episodes into this new year. We just had a couple really, really cool episodes. And coming up next year, we're setting the tone for, every year we have a theme. Just pre-COVID, we wrapped up our theme on the brain game. We talked with some of the world's experts. And if you're a parent or coach or even a player, again, not because it's my show, but you should hear these conversations.
They're incredible conversations you have.
Just
I'll go
really
back to you had that mob boss that one time.
Oh yeah,
and
Franzese. And he's been on a couple times since, right? And that's fascinating. Looking at the dark side of the game and how that goes, right? Just fascinating stuff. Coming up this year, we're talking about perception, though, and that's why that Connor McDavid conversation is such a great one for me, because his perception of the game, but how we perceive a thing called the brain game, right? So that's coming up, but on our website for sure. And we're just talking athlete performance, how to get better. And we're really, really focusing on coaching performance. I got this course over COVID. I was just going nuts because I wasn't traveling. I did 75 presentations globally. And my wife and I were sitting there going, you did 75 in like those 2 years?
Yeah.
Big conferences and stuff. And we figured it out. We presented to over 8,000 people, which is just pretty cool, right? Just interacting. I'm still getting emails. People want more information. So I just was sitting there, twiddling my thumbs through COVID with my back, which I had back surgery. And then I had a freaking heart attack, which is a conversation for another day. Carry aspirin, guys, please. I'm just telling you, we'll have to we really should talk about that more, but it was a scary time. But I just put together this resource called Creating Coachable Players. It's for coaches, and we're just going to be launching this thing. So I'm really excited. I'm excited about all this stuff that's happening with platforms like this.
He's never not excited.
That's the thing.
As I've
How do you
learned.
not get how does your energy and mood not come up whenever you talk to Jeff?
Yeah.
It's always
I feel
wonderful,
better just saying hi to him.
And he even says he had a heart attack, and Eric's like, "Oh, well, you're still we're all still positive."
Quinn's eyes lit up when she heard Jeff say it. We knew, obviously, working with you at 1260. Yeah, we knew, but
oh man, that's
one of the
scary,
scariest things. But if you listen to the episodes we had on that, I didn't want to talk about it in public, but the guys who were helping me with the podcast said, "No, tell your story.
Yeah.
You might save somebody's life." And
absolutely,
I get emails from people who have had heart attacks or who are now walking around with aspirin, not for themselves, but maybe in case somebody needs.
I told my parents about it and stuff.
Yes.
What is it? The chewable?
Yeah, the baby aspirin, the 85 milligrams. It can save your life.
85 milligrams.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's a story for another day, but it's an important one as well.
Yeah.
Especially what you see in the NFL. You know, it's happening to pro athletes with no signs or symptoms.
Scary.
Like, I mean, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's all get it. Look, heart attacks are the number one killer.
Yeah.
All right. Women have fewer heart attacks, but die more often because you don't have the same signs as symptoms as we do. It's a conversation for another day.
I know the symptoms. Trust me,
Okay.
the pain in between your shoulder blades and stuff. So sometimes I'll forget I did a back workout, and I'm like, oh my god, having a heart attack.
Low
that
back,
aspirin 85.
low back pain and serious indigestion are two of the bigger symptoms of heart attacks for women. And women don't correlate that with, I'm not having, my back is sore or I got indigestion. And they're actually having heart attacks. So you have to be aware of this stuff.
Well, and like not to get like into too much detail, but that's a common symptom of other things, right?
Totally.
So
And that's
monthly.
that's why for
Yeah.
the ladies in our life, I have 3 daughters, man. This is a serious conversation. Again, sports talk, I realize it, but you know, those episodes I did where it was hard to talk about, but man, I think just from the feedback, maybe help somebody.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah,
it
Just helps one person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Traveling anywhere soon?
Well, I'm supposed to go to Florida. So here's a cool thing that's going on. So MLB programs are starting in. I was supposed to go to Florida end of this month, but I can't make it. The Puerto Rican academies are starting up again, so I've got to get there soon. But I've been asked to teach in Bahrain.
Whoa.
I've never been to the Middle East. So this will be a group of their elite coaches from the region from all different sports. And I'm going to go in there talking about athlete evaluation, assessment, elite programming, and long-term development. I can't wait. So that's happening in November.
Well, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So
All
I can't
over
wait.
the map. Love
Yeah.
it.
You going to the Middle East?
Don't ask me anything.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
I'm
I'm gonna
actually
say-
I'm going to Australia in October.
That's gonna be awesome.
So yeah, that'll be fun. So I can't watch too much playoff baseball. Sorry.
Highlights.
Yes.
So,
Get the
From
MLB
Australia.
app. Get the MLB app.
Yeah, that's true.
so Quinn, we're getting rid of the center hung speakers at Commonwealth.
Mhm,
We're
yeah.
doing renovations to the concourses,
Yeah, more
Okay.
bathrooms. Yeah.
more bathrooms and concessions.
We're also going to build a new stadium. We're going to do both.
Bigger concerts, and then the next conversation we're bringing to the city is Northlands Park, where the Spectrum track is. That's going to be a 40,000 seat retractable roof football / all-purpose facility.
Soccer.
And then we're
So-
also
You bring
gonna
back a
build. We're
CPL
going to
team.
build hotels around there.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
All simple. All easy to be done.
I think that seems affordable.
This is on your to-do list.
By the next time you come back, we want it
Please.
like at the very least like tentatively
I've
approved.
spoken with the mayor.
Mayor's so just to let you know, we're doing all of these things.
Listen, so we came up with this on the Hangout.
I'm sure you've heard about it or watching.
Yeah.
He already
Guaranteed.
knows. He's listening
He's
right now.
listening.
He's probably they're writing.
Yeah.
This is where they're getting their ideas. They're going, these are great ideas.
In council chambers.
These guys really get it.
They understand
Yeah.
what the city needs. This is where we're spending our money
Yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah.
Guys, come check out this YouTube video I found.
You'll not believe what they're coming up with.
Brilliant stuff.
Golf season done?
No.
Got more? No.
Oh, come on. I'm playing until I go to Australia, and then I'm playing in Australia.
Nice.
And I will tell you right now, I'm probably going to lose 75 balls because if anything is in the least bit off the fairway, we will not be venturing to find it.
No.
We will not be.
No.
So I'll just be prepared. I'll have to rent clubs because I'm obviously not going to bring my own clubs to the other side of the world.
What kind of clubs do you play?
TaylorMade.
Nice.
I got fitted at the ranch, and I love my clubs so much. I love them so much. It was like my birthday
You had a
Christmas
great year,
gift for.
haven't you?
Yeah, I've been doing pretty well, but I got these clubs a few years ago. So yeah, they're just now I'm reaping the benefits.
You're in your groove. I want to read this text from Calgary Glenn. It says, great hangout today. Crusher's energy is perfect for a Monday, and I always love Quinn's perspective on things around Edmonton and sports. That's from Calgary Glenn.
Calgary Glen.
Love it.
Or
Right?
is it Cal and Gary?
Something good has come from Calgary.
Calgary Glenn.
Finally.
Calgary.
We love you.
Coming up here on Edmonton Sports Talk, we do got the Lock Shop with Dusty and Haas Monday Night Football best bets. 2 games to choose from tonight for Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
And then at noon, we're back with the Oil Stream U and Dusty with the final 5 Oilers rankings of importance that you
Yes,
have.
yes.
Skinner was 7. That's what it
Campbell
was.
10.
So I'm intrigued how the final
Nugent Hopkins 1. I'm kidding.
final list goes.
I'm kidding.
3 through 5, where
Why?
do they come out? Because I'm pretty sure I know where 1 and 2 comes, unless you surprise us.
No, I'm not surprised.
Maybe you surprise us big time.
No, I'm not that guy. I don't.
You're supposed to start right now. You're supposed to be like, oh, maybe. Maybe there's a surprise coming at
wrench
noon.
into everything.
You better tune in.
We'll find out at noon today.
Yeah.
Jeff Krushell, crushperformance.com, correct? Yep. Quinn Phillips, Explore Edmonton. Thank you guys.
ExploreEdmonton.com.
Thanks for stopping by.
Love you guys. Thanks for having me.
We'll have to have you back, and we'll have to get some Tales of Australia after you come back from there.
When do you go again?
October 17th.
Well, we'll get you in before
I
then.
got a couple more shows in me, I think. So.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
I like that.
We're holding you to it.
Perfect. Well, that will wrap up Monday's edition of the EST Hangout. Like I said, coming up, it is the Lock Shop with Dusty and Huss. On behalf of Tom Gazzola, Jeff Krushell, Quinn Phillips, I'm Matt Owanek. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.